Your grandmother could fix a toaster with a butter knife and a prayer. You can't even replace the battery in your phone. This is not an accident. Somewhere between her kitchen table and your sleek apartment, something was stolen from you. Not just the skill, the knowledge, the confidence to open a broken thing and make it work again. No, what was stolen was deeper than that. It was the very idea that you own what you pay for, that once money leaves your hand and an object enters your life, that object belongs to you, completely. To use, to break, to fix, to modify, to keep forever if you choose. They took that idea and buried it so deep you forgot it ever existed, and in its place, they sold you something much more profitable, the belief that everything you touch has an expiration date, that repair is impossible, impractical, or beneath you, that the only rational response to a broken object is to throw it away and buy a new one. They taught you to be helpless, and you paid them for the lesson. This is the story of how repair became rebellion, how fixing your own possessions turned into an act of economic warfare, how the simple act of making something last became a threat to the most powerful corporations on Earth. And it starts, like so many of our modern nightmares, in the ashes of the Great Depression. Picture 1929. The stock market hasn't just fallen, it's evaporated. $30 billion gone in a week, banks collapsing like dominoes, bread lines stretching around city blocks, men in expensive suits selling apples on street corners because it's the only way to eat. This is the world on fire. This is the moment when everything breaks. And in that breaking, something interesting happens. People learn to fix things, not because they want to, because they have to, because there is no other choice. Your shoes have a hole? You don't buy new shoes. There are no new shoes. You cut a piece of cardboard, slide it inside, and you walk until the cardboard wears through. Then you cut another piece. Your radio stops working? You don't throw it away. That radio costs 3 months of wages back when you had wages. You open it up. You study the tubes, the wires, the capacitors. You ask your neighbor who knows a guy who used to work in electronics. You learn, you fix it, you make it last. This was not a generation of hobbyists. This was a generation forged in scarcity. They learned repair the way soldiers learned to fight, because survival demanded it. And that knowledge, that capability, it became embedded in the culture. Your grandfather could rebuild an engine with hand tools in a barn. Your grandmother could turn a torn dress into a quilt, then turn that quilt into winter survival. They looked at broken objects the way a general looks at a map. Every problem had a solution. Every failure was just a puzzle waiting to be solved. Now fast forward, 1954. The war is over. The soldiers are home. The factories that built tanks and bombers and warships, they've retooled. They're making refrigerators now, washing machines, televisions, cars, so many cars. America is about to enter the most sustained economic expansion in human history. There's just one problem. The people who lived through the Depression, the people who fought in the war, they know how to make things last. They were trained in scarcity. They carry the Great Depression in their bones, and that's a problem for business. Because if people only buy what they need, if they fix what breaks, if they use something until it literally cannot be used anymore, well, there's a ceiling on growth, a hard ceiling. You can only sell so many refrigerators if each one lasts 30 years. So the corporations did something brilliant, something devastating. They didn't just start making products that break faster. That would come later. First, they had to change how Americans think. They had to kill the repair culture at its root. Enter Brooks Stevens, industrial designer, consultant, genius of manipulation. In 1954, he gives a talk. He's speaking to a room full of advertising executives and manufacturing leaders. And he introduces a phrase that will reshape American life: planned obsolescence. Now, that term existed before Stevens, but he popularizes it. He makes it respectable. He sells it as the engine of prosperity. Here's his pitch. Instead of making products that last forever, make products that become obsolete. Not just because they break, though that helps, but because they become unfashionable, outdated, embarrassing to own. Create a culture where last year's model is a mark of failure, where people are ashamed to be seen with old things. Make them want to upgrade, not because they need to, but because their identity demands it. This is psychological warfare disguised as product design. And it works. God help us. It works. The car industry goes first. Every year, new tail fins, new chrome, new colors. The engineering barely changes, but the styling shifts just enough that everyone can tell you're driving a 53 when it's 55. Your car works fine, runs perfect. But your neighbor has the new model, and suddenly you feel poor. You feel left behind. So you trade it in. You take on debt. You buy the new one, not because you need it, because you need to not feel ashamed. Then it spreads. Fashion, appliances, electronics, everything. The message hammers into American consciousness from every billboard, every magazine, every television commercial. New is better. Old is suspect. If you're not upgrading, you're falling behind. And slowly, quietly, the repair culture dies. Your grandfather still fixes his own car, but your father? He takes it to a mechanic, not because he can't learn, because he's busy, because specialization is efficient, because that's what modern people do. And you? You don't even open the hood. You wouldn't know where to start. The knowledge died in 3 generations, not through force, through seduction. But here's where it gets darker. Because planned obsolescence, based on style, on fashion, on shame, that's the amateur version. That's the warm-up. The real masterpiece comes later, when they figure out how to make things that are designed, engineered, built from the ground up to fail, and to fail in ways you cannot fix. Welcome to the age of the unrepairable object. It starts small. Screws that require special tools, tools you don't own, tools you can't buy. A tiny pentalobe screw instead of a Phillips head. Why? Not because it's better, because it locks you out, because it says, this is not yours to open. This is not yours to understand. This is ours. You're just renting the experience. Then the batteries. Glued in, soldered in, sealed behind glass that shatters if you try to pry it open. Your phone battery dies after 2 years, not randomly, by design. Lithium-ion batteries degrade. That's physics. But they could be replaceable. They used to be replaceable. You remember. You could pop the back off your old phone, swap in a fresh battery. Keep going. Now you need a heat gun, a suction cup, specialized picks, and a prayer. And if you crack the screen in the process, that's another $400. Or you could just buy a new phone, which is exactly what they want. The printers. Dear God, the printers. They put chips in the ink cartridges, chips that count, that track, that tell the printer to stop working even when there's still ink in the reservoir. The cartridge says empty. The printer refuses to print. You can see the ink inside. You can shake it. You can hear it sloshing. Doesn't matter. The chip says no. So you throw away a cartridge that's 30% full and buy a new one, not because it's empty, because a circuit board with a counter told a motor to stop. This is not engineering. This is extortion with a firmware update. Tractors, farmers, the people who feed us. John Deere puts software locks on their equipment. A sensor fails. A simple part. A farmer who has repaired machinery his entire life, who learned from his father, he can fix this. He has the part, he has the tools, he has the knowledge, but he cannot fix it because the tractor won't start until a John Deere technician comes out with a laptop and enters a code. A code the farmer is not allowed to have, a code that costs money, a code that might take days to arrive while crops rot in the field. Think about what this means. John Deere sold this farmer a $300,000 machine. He paid in full. He owns it legally, except he doesn't. Not really. Because he can't fix it without permission. He needs authorization from the manufacturer to repair his own property. This is not ownership. This is feudalism with a user agreement. And it's everywhere now. Coffee makers with encrypted pods, thermostats that only work with proprietary apps, light bulbs that stop working when the company shuts down the server. Yes, light bulbs. You screw in a smart bulb, it works beautifully. Then 2 years later, the startup goes bankrupt and suddenly your lights are expensive garbage because the authentication server went dark. You own a light bulb that needs internet permission to turn on. Read that again, slowly. This is the endgame of planned obsolescence. Not just products that break, products that cannot be fixed. Products that are designed, from the first line of code to the last drop of glue, to be unrepairable. To punish anyone who tries. To make repair economically impossible. Technically impossible. Legally impossible. Because now the law gets involved. The Digital Millennium Copyright Act, passed in 1998, ostensibly about preventing piracy, protecting intellectual property, noble goals. But the language is broad, so broad that companies use it as a weapon. They argue that the software in their devices is copyrighted, that bypassing any digital lock, even to repair something you own, is copyright violation, is illegal, is a crime. So now you're not just unable to fix your phone, you're a criminal if you try, or at least you could be. The law is vague enough that the threat exists, and the threat is often enough. Most people don't want to risk it. Most repair shops don't want the lawsuit, so they stop, they comply, they surrender, and the corporations smile. Because they've built the perfect system. You pay full price for a product. You think you own it, but ownership has been hollowed out, redefined. You own the physical object, but you don't own the software. You don't own the right to repair. You don't own the information about how it works. You own a shell. And when that shell cracks, your only legal option is to go back to the manufacturer, to pay them again, to buy the new model, to stay in the loop forever. This is not capitalism, not the kind they taught you about. This is something newer, something more sophisticated. It's a rental economy disguised as ownership. It's planned failure as a business model. It's the monetization of your helplessness. But here's the thing they didn't count on. People are starting to notice, starting to resist, starting to remember that it wasn't always like this, that their grandparents lived differently. That repair is possible. That knowledge can be shared. That locks can be picked. The right to repair movement. It's small, grassroots, scrappy. It's farmers in the Midwest sharing tractor firmware hacks on forums. It's technicians publishing repair manuals that Apple says are proprietary secrets. It's legislators in Massachusetts and California and New York proposing laws that force manufacturers to provide parts, tools, and information. It's people saying, "No, this is mine. I paid for it. I own it, and I will fix it if I damn well please. I fix it. A website, a company, a philosophy." They publish free repair guides for everything: phones, laptops, game consoles, appliances, step-by-step instructions with photos. They sell the tools you need, the special screwdrivers, the prying tools, the suction cups. They give you the knowledge that corporations tried to lock away, and they do it with a middle finger and a smile. Louis Rossmann, a repair technician in New York. He films himself fixing MacBooks, explains exactly what's wrong, shows you the board-level repairs that Apple says are impossible. Posts it all on YouTube, millions of views. Apple hates him, sends lawyers, threatens. He keeps filming, keeps teaching, keeps proving that the emperor has no clothes, that repair is not magic. It's knowledge, and knowledge wants to be free. France passes a repairability index law. Every electronic product sold must have a score, a rating out of 10. How easy is it to repair? Are parts available? Are instructions provided? Consumers can see the score before they buy. Suddenly, manufacturers who built unrepairable garbage have to compete with companies that make things you can fix. The market shifts. Not much, not yet, but it shifts. This is the rebellion. Not riots in the streets, not manifestos and raised fists, just people quietly insisting on the right to fix their own possessions, to make things last, to escape the upgrade cycle. It sounds small, it sounds domestic, but it's not. Because every repair is an act of economic disobedience. Every fixed phone is a new phone, not purchased. Every patched jacket is a fast-fashion shirt left on the rack. Every salvaged appliance is a corporation that doesn't get your money. Multiply that by millions. Multiply it by billions. Suddenly, it's not small anymore. Suddenly, it's a threat to the entire model, the model that requires constant consumption. That requires you to throw away and buy, throw away and buy, throw away and buy until you die. The model that's strip mining the planet and filling the ocean with plastic and pumping carbon into the air because every product is disposable and disposal is profit. Repair is rebellion because repair is sustainability, because repair is ownership, because repair is freedom from the cycle, and the system cannot tolerate freedom. It never could. So they fight back. Lobbying, donations, advertising campaigns about safety. Unauthorized repairs are dangerous. Third-party parts might catch fire. Only certified technicians can ensure quality. Fear, uncertainty, doubt. The same tools they've always used, the same manipulation, but something is different now. People are tired. Tired of the cycle. Tired of the debt. Tired of the waste. They're watching their bank accounts drain while their drawers fill with broken devices they're not allowed to fix. They're watching the climate collapse while corporations tell them to recycle and then design products that can't be recycled. They're connecting the dots, slowly, imperfectly, but they're connecting them. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you understand that your helplessness was manufactured, that your dependence was engineered, that your confusion was the goal. Once you understand that, everything changes. You start asking questions. Why can't I change my own battery? Why is this sealed? Why do I need permission? Why is repair so expensive that replacement is cheaper? Why? 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 And the answers, when you dig for them, are always the same. Because they make more money this way. Because your dependence is their profit. Because a customer who can fix things is a customer they might lose. So what do you do with that knowledge? You could ignore it, go back to sleep, keep upgrading, keep consuming. It's easier that way. The path of least resistance. Let the machine run. Let it grind you down. Let it take your money and your time and your planet and just don't think about it too hard. Or you could fix something, one thing, something small, something broken, something they told you was unfixable. You could watch a YouTube video, order a part, borrow a tool, open the case, look inside, see the guts, the circuits, the mechanics. The thing that was magic becomes matter, becomes understandable, becomes fixable. And when you fix it, when it works again, when you made it work with your own hands and your own mind, something shifts. You're not helpless. You're not dependent. You're capable. And capability is dangerous to them, because every person who learns to repair is a person who opts out, who steps off the treadmill, who refuses the upgrade, who makes things last. And if enough people do that, if enough people remember that objects can be fixed and kept and loved instead of discarded, then the whole model collapses. The infinite growth, the planned failure, the consumption engine, it all falls apart. This is why repair is rebellion. Not because fixing a toaster is radical, but because fixing a toaster means you don't buy a new one. And not buying is the most radical act available to you in an economy built on selling. Your grandmother knew this, not philosophically, practically. She lived through a time when you fixed things because you had to, when repair was survival. That time is gone. We live in abundance now. Artificial abundance, wasteful abundance, abundance that's killing us. But the knowledge didn't die completely. It's still there, in forums, in videos, in the hands of technicians who refuse to give up, in farmers who hack their tractors, in kids who jailbreak their phones, in everyone who looks at a broken thing and thinks, I can fix this. You can fix this. Not everything, not all at once, but something. Start small. A shirt with a tear, a bike with a flat, a laptop with a broken screen. Learn, try, fail, try again, ask for help, watch tutorials, buy the tools, take your time. And when you succeed, when the broken thing works again, remember this feeling, this capability, this freedom. Because they want you to forget you ever had it. They want you helpless and hungry and reaching for your credit card every time something breaks. They want you to believe that repair is impossible, that products are too complex, that you're not smart enough, not skilled enough, not qualified enough. They're lying. You're the descendant of people who crossed oceans and built cities and survived wars and depressions and plagues. You carry that in your blood. That resilience, that capability, that refusal to quit. And all you have to do is remember it, use it, fix something, make it last. Make it last forever.